Hey everybody, hope you're doing well tonight. Samantha gave me a haircut and we had to do a little touch up afterwards, but I like it. I'm liking more not having to pay a barber any money, so it's good. But glad you're able to join in today. We're talking about the importance of our testimony. And I want to say this, if you go to church anywhere, you really want to pray for your pastor right now. It's a really unique time, difficult time, and there's so many different factors that come into a pastor's mind. And I think about a lot of different things. You know, pastors are in very uncharted territory right now. And you're weighing out a variety of different thoughts and ideas and really just trying to systematize all of them as you decide what to do and how to do it and so on. And, you know, government, I'll deal with the state of Massachusetts, I should say, has declared churches offer essential services, but they're not essential businesses. And, it seems like a technicality, but basically you're allowed to be open but not have more than 10 people. And as details about what the state's going to be doing for opening up are coming forth, basically churches are nowhere on the radar. Nowhere on the radar. And there's being no discussion about them. The panel of people putting it together, not one. There are over 8,000 churches of all different faiths in Massachusetts, and not one representative from one church was on this panel that of a wide variety of people. Not one. There's no input. You know, the reality is that these politicians are making decisions, and none of them go to church. None of them know what church is like. They think that I don't know what they think, but they think that we can't be safe. They think that we can't be responsible. And so they're putting us on the back burner, and when we really don't need to be, because the very nature of church, we can be perfectly safe and have social distancing, physical distancing, whatever you want to call it. And but retail stores are going to be opening up, restaurants will be opening up, and churches will still be closed. That's what's coming. That's the direction the state of Massachusetts is going. And there are people working to try to change that, but as of right now, that's the direction that things will be heading. And that's what you call religious discrimination. When you can go to everywhere else, but you can't go to church. That's, it's embarrassing that today and I'm not against our state troopers, I love our police officers, but they had a graduation in Gillette Stadium for 240 people. Now, let me ask a question, and I think everybody already knows the answer. If a church rented out a facility like that right now and had a service with 240 people in it, do you know what the public outcry would be? We would be endangering lives, and we'd just be doing it for the money. But when the state does it, when the state breaks their own rules, it's, no big deal, no big deal. The governor went, I did read an article that says he was hesitant. He should have been. It was the wrong move. And I've been supportive of our governor right along the way. I think you encourage people when they need to be encouraged, and you criticize when they be criticized, and I still pray for them, and I still have respect of the position, but that was the wrong move, and it's hypocritical. And, if it were a church, the public outcry would be ridiculous. But because it's state troopers, it's fine. No, it's hypocritical. And that's unfortunate, but that's what's going on. And so, anyhow, it's poor leadership, and it's religious discrimination because of a variety of reasons, because you can't have over 10 people. I guess unless you're important, then you can. But, last I checked, viruses don't really concern themselves with who's important or not. So the rule's the rule. You either follow it or you don't. All right? Poor leadership is when you make rules and break them because you're the leadership and you can break them. That's bad leadership on any level, whether it's government, church, in a business. bad leadership. So those who are in leadership, don't do that, regardless of who you are. Now, Lifeline Baptist Church has graciously obeyed the order, which is not law, it's an order, and we have agreed to do so in the name of public health, because I honestly, I have genuine concern for our membership and our guests, and I'll just be honest with you, man, I am conflicted. I find our government, which I've given the utmost leniency, is honestly, I'm just getting to the place where I feel like they're hypocritical and really don't care about churches. That's how I'm starting to feel. And I'm starting to feel that way because of the things I see. And I have been, look, if it's safe to open up, it's safe to open up. If it's not, it's not. And if it's safe to incrementally, okay, fine. Treat us like everybody else. Don't discriminate against churches, but that's exactly what's coming. And so I'm frustrated about that. I'm concerned about our healthcare workers, though. At the flip side, I'm concerned about our healthcare workers. I'm concerned about our elderly. I'm concerned about our general population. And at the same time, I would never want to do anything to jeopardize them. And so, but there's another group that I'm concerned about. And that's the group that I'm going to talk about tonight. And that is the general public, our community. And they're of great concern to me because I don't want to do anything that would ever jeopardize our community, in the sense of our community's view of Lifeline Baptist Church. I never want to do anything to jeopardize that. Now, look, if somebody's going to criticize the message of the Lord Jesus Christ, all right, if someone's got a problem with, well, it's very narrow view to say that Jesus Christ is the only way. Well, I'm not saying it. He said it in John chapter 14. So I'm just conveying his message. So if someone's going to be offended and dislike Lifeline Baptist Church because of the message of the Bible, I'm okay with that. I don't like that, but I'm willing to accept that. Now, what I am much more cautious about is if Lifeline Baptist Church is going to do something that's outside of the gospel, and that's going to be a stumbling block for our community. Now, that's a little bit more concerning to me, and I'm really going to stop and think about, what am I about to do before I do that? And so, our testimony is of great significance, and I believe it's something that is being overlooked by some, is the testimony of your church in the community. Now, I want to give you a couple thoughts. Why should we care about our what a bunch of lost people in our community think about us? Why should we even care? I'll give you 2 quick thoughts of why you should care. First, as a pastor, it's qualification to be a pastor. In 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 7, it says, "Moreover, he, the pastor, must be of good report of them with or without, lest he fall into reproach and a snare of the devil." The key part there is you have to be a good report of them that are without. Those that are the without are without Christ. They're unsaved. And to be a good report means you got to have a good testimony. Now, look, in Massachusetts and in other states, there are people that are choosing to defy the governor and his order, and that is I think it's perfectly within their constitutional right. I think as a church, no government's over the church. They're in a separate entity. And as long as entities mind their own business, we're fine. The problem is when you get, one entity crossing over into, look, the church does not tell the government how to run. And so the government should not be telling the church how to run. And so, and I understand public health, and there's kind of this crossing of hairs, and that's why we're doing what we're doing, because of public health. We get it. I get it. That's why we've done what we've done. But here's the thing: is right now, if you go against the governor, at least in Massachusetts, right now the most recent surveys say that 85% of the population of Massachusetts supports what's going on right now. So now, if you go against that, you just have to assume that roughly 85% of the people in your community are not going to be happy with you. All right, now that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of people and a lot of negative sentiment. And so, there's a lot of factors that go into that. Now, you got to understand what people who don't know you know what they're going to say. They're just doing it for the money. Church is running low on money, so they got to open up so they can fill the offering plate because that's what they need. Or this guy's just looking for attention, and this guy just wants to be on TV and be popular, because in their mind, if you cared about people, you wouldn't open up. All right. Now, I'm not saying that's an accurate assessment. I'm saying that's the perception that will be portrayed of you when you, at this time, open up in defiance of what the governor's order is. So now, I know those aren't accurate assessments. I know people, a lot of different people in different places that are meeting both openly and kind of not openly, but they're still defying the governor's orders. And I know they're not doing it for the money. I know they're not doing it to be popular or anything like that. I know that. I know their motives. They're genuine. They want to minister to their people, but you got to know that sentiment is going to be out there. And unless you have built up an inordinate amount of goodwill in your community, or are very well known, and people know that's not you and that's not why you're doing it, you ought to be very, very careful. And the less you've been there, the more careful you want to be, because that perception of you will permeate. That's what people will say about you, regardless of whether it's true or not is irrelevant. And so what I'm saying here is that the qualification of a pastor is to understand, if I do this, what is the perception of me? What is the reputation of me going to be? And I'm not saying that in this one isolated event that someone's not qualified. It's not what I'm saying, because I think there's a body of work there that needs to be looked at. But if the whole community has nothing bad and positive to say about you for the decision that you're making, it might not be the right time. It might not be the right community. There's a consideration there, because do you think that anybody's from that community is going to come to you? Yeah, the brethren from all over the place will call, and they might show up to support you once or twice, but they're not going to be a part of your church on a regular basis. And so you got to consider this. Is the community, how about this? How about your own people? I mean, look, before you do something, your own people ought to be on board with you, and consider the community. And now secondly, you want to consider this. Is this decision going to be favorable by the public? And if it's not, it could be very detrimental to your church long term. Look, I'll just be upfront. I believe it's our constitutional right to meet. All right, the constitutional right, First Amendment of the Constitution, I think is very clear. There's not a pandemic or epidemic clause in it. And so all this stuff that's going on right now is, I think, I've gone back and forth on this thing, but I think it is unconstitutional, because our country is run by rule of law, not rule of man. Now, with that said, there's a lot of factors that go into every decision that a church makes. But just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. 1 Corinthians 10:23, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are expedient. Just because a church has a constitutional right to meet does not mean they should. They must consider first the people, and they must also consider the community at large. And if the community at large is going to turn on the church has to ask themselves, well, what does the Lord want us to do? Because these are the people you're trying to reach. I don't understand churches that want to try to get people to commute from all over the place to them. I understand it's going to happen sometimes, but by and large, you want to reach your local community. And so if you take everybody off in your local community, realistically, who's going to come to your church? If you're going to lose half your church members over a decision, and then the whole 85% of the community thinks you're crazy, who are you going to reach? Who's going to come to your church? And worse, how many people are you going to lose out of this down the road? Because when they say, oh, you go to that church, and now they're getting flack at work, and they're getting flack in their family, and because they go to that church that did that thing. And now you got some problems, and you're potentially destroying the respect that you've built up in your community, and it can cost you long term. Now, the point I'm making here is, over the next few months, if you meet within the guidelines, because I'm just going to be honest with you, that we're probably not going to have any semblance of normal church probably till July or August at the rate the state's going. All right? So all our summer program gone. All right? Just even being able to meet at church, I don't see it happening, because we're going to wait till May 19th to get May 15th, they're going to tell us what's going to happen as far as phase 1, which may not start till who knows when, a week or two after that. And then that's going to go 2 weeks, and then it's phase 2 and phase 3, and and that's all predicated on numbers going down. And if they don't, then you're just going to go back. And I'm telling you right now, church is not going to meet until July or August if we continue to abide by what the state says, because they just don't care about churches. Other states do, plenty of other states do, but not Massachusetts. And at least not right now. I hope it changes, and if it does, I applaud them for listening. But right now, it doesn't look like that. And so everybody else is going to go back to some semblance of normalcy, but not Lifeline Baptist Church, if we continue to follow the guidelines, which our plan right now is to do that, just so there's no misunderstanding. But here's what I'm saying, is that in the short term, if you go outside the lines, so to speak, you might benefit yourself, but you could hurt yourself in the long term. In other words, you bring a bunch of people, we get back together, and it's wonderful, we're back together. But then if public sentiment is not supportive, if the public does not see that churches are being discriminated against, it's not going to go well. But if we'll be patient and raise awareness of what I perceive is happening, and get on the horn with our legislators, and speak to, once things are concrete, and speak to the mayor, and speak to everybody and their brother about the injustice and the unfairness that is going on, and public opinion of churches begins to shift, then you have more leeway, and you're not hurting yourself in the long run. Now, one more brief point I want to consider. Could God raise up some churches to stand up for what's going on, to stand against it? And not all churches, but just some, that will help win the battle for churches. But those individual churches will pay a great price in doing it, and other churches will benefit from it. Could the Lord do that? I think He could. And I think He might be. Now, that high price they pay might mean they don't recover from it, because public sentiment might be so bad that they don't ever recover from it, at least not long term. They don't recover. They'll be around for a while, but they're going to not blossom, and it may even one day close them. But other churches will be benefited for it. Would the Lord do that? He could. He absolutely could. It's His church. Why am I saying that? Because I want to be very careful not to criticize anybody for what they do. Because my job is to follow the Lord for Lifeline Baptist Church. Right now, I'm not happy. I'm not pleased. The things that have come to my mind over the last 48 hours, I'm not happy, because not so much where we are today, it's where we're going. And I'm not happy with where we're going. And I want everybody to start praying for our political leaders, that God would open their eyes. Because we are important. The Church of the Lord Jesus Christ is important. It's more important than any other entity on this earth. It's more important than, a retail store. All right? And we should at least be treated similarly as a grocery store or whatever, where, right, there's different standards out there Rhode Island is, one person for every 300 square feet. Fine, we'd be able to have like 13 people in church at that. But you know what? There's some bigger churches that would be able to have more people in. All right. So if that's what they did, at least put us on the table. At least say, hey, we know you're there, and we care. But you can't get anybody to say anything about a church. All right, and the stuff that's going on is ridiculous. Lifeline, we've been meeting and having services with 10 or less people. In certain towns, churches are being told they can't even do that. In Massachusetts, just talked to the guy the other day trying to help him out, and it's ridiculous. All right, and so look, we are going to stay the course, but we really need to be praying, one, that public opinion for churches would shift as this thing shifts, as people begin to get back to some sense of normalcy. I hope that they begin to see the plight of churches, because they're trying to do a good thing. They're trying to help their communities. People that know Lifeline know how involved we are. And all we want to do is worship Jesus. We just want to be able to worship Jesus together when it's safe and appropriate, and we use whatever practices we need to use. But right now, I don't know who's going to watch this, but right now, the way I see it, the state of Massachusetts couldn't care less about churches, and that's becoming very evident, and that's a shame. That's too bad, and it doesn't mean we're going to turn around and do anything different than what we've been doing. We're going to keep doing what we're doing, which is perfectly within the rules of the order, and we'll continue to follow that. But church, we got to be praying that God would do something, and that He would stir in our state that needs to be woken up, because everybody else is more important than churches, and I hope that our voice gets heard. I'm doing what I can to make sure that it is. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and please be in much prayer. Lord bless you. Have a great evening.